So similarities, of course. I think financial modeling is important in both the roles. That would be one similarity. Second, I think it's important to know that industry that you're a part of. I think it will help you either way. Differences, there would be probably more than two. So one, equity research, investment banking. Equity research is like a sell-side role, public, right? And so basically, there is a set universe of companies that you cover. So for example, there's a particular sector that you're covering and particular geography that you're covering, and you have some companies which fit in those criteria, and you cover them. So you cover them as in basically you write reports on them. Okay. And you rate their stock because it's a public company, right?
Hello everyone, welcome back to another series of podcast. I am Chandan Palwar from GrowJunction. I welcome you all to one of insightful finance domain focused podcast. Today we have one of the eminent personalities with us, Miss Aastha Agarwal. She's currently serving as an investment banker IB at Goldman Sachs. As far as her education is concerned, she's a true academic magician, I would say. So as she completed her BTech in Textile Sciences and Engineering from IIT Delhi in the year of 2017, and then so forth, she successfully completed her MBA in Finance and Strategy from IIM Lucknow. As I understand, you must be impatient to hear such a scholar around us. So before I speak, let's unite together and have such an amazing personality with all of us on board. Hi, Asa, how are you?
Hey, I'm good. Thank you so much for having me over.
Yeah, so it's basically I'm honored to have, to host such a personality, because having, just said that I'm academic magician. So I actually introduced those words. I didn't listen from any other person or have it on.
Thank you so much for such a glorified introduction. I'm humbled to be here. Thank you.
All right. So before we begin, we would really, love to hear about you, like your journey, how exactly, you rolled into BTech and all of a sudden in a MBA in Finance and Strategy. That was way apart from, your textiles graduation. So how does that, what was the journey all about?
Right. So like you said, right? Hi, everyone. I'm Aastha and I'm an alumna of IIT Delhi IIM Lucknow. So I've worked in the financial services space for about 3 years now, and combining equity research and investment banking. But like Chandan mentioned, I started from an engineering background. I think I would just attribute, so I was there in textile engineering, and of course it's an amazing branch. I loved being a part of it. But I think I would totally dedicate this to the curriculum which IIT offers. Okay, so we had this flexibility to choose a lot of courses, like anything. So we just don't have to do our courses like textile specific courses, but we have to do compulsory humanities, some like 15 credits in those days we had to do for humanities and social sciences courses, and we could actually do a minor in any other minor degree in any other field also. So it's very flexible. And it was at IIT that I started doing economics courses. I started studying finance electives because I was just intrigued. What is it about? And I'm always like, I have a quest for learning something new. So I was very intrigued. Okay, what is this field about? And that is when, terms like assets, liabilities, balance sheets, something like cash flows, things like these are there. Right. That is what came to light.
Right.
And I just started developing interest as and when, I went deeper into that subject. So, and then, after the third year, I was fortunate enough to get an internship with Deutsche Bank. And that was my first corporate exposure. So that is when I actually, realized that yes, finance was something which interested me. Okay. And I might want to go ahead with finance as a career. So that is how I basically changed my field from engineering to finance. And I would totally, thank IIT for giving me the flexibility and the breadth of courses to, explore and eventually decide what I like.
I think very interesting. Yeah, very interesting. So the thing is, I somehow start believing in the fact that, there is no good time to start learning unless you actually start. So like being from like a science background in your intermediate and post doing your BTech altogether in another line, apart from way apart from the finance domain, so you still found your domain, you still found your how exactly your future life gonna be. So I think that's quite interesting to know here about. And to the audience who currently pursuing the BTech, or they must be apart from the finance thing, or they are interested into pursue investment banker line or any other line. So there's there's a thumbs up definitely to do and proceed it. So
Yeah.
now coming forward, like your profile speaks a lot about you. It is clear that you are an academic scholar. You have been to prestigious institutions like IITs and IIMs. What could be the possible learnings you must believe that you have availed from your education, if I asked to summarize?
Right. So yes, I think before I actually go on to whatever learnings that I've garnered from my time at IIT and IIM, I
Right.
would I would also like to speak a little bit about my background, because I just feel that
Please.
that also influenced me to think in a particular way or to garner whatever I did at the end of the day.
Yes,
So
please.
my upbringing has strongly instilled in me, the um, I would say it has strongly instilled in me the quality to fight hardships or endure hardships with fortitude, or strive for excellence, and have strong values as the cornerstone of my life. And the last part is something which I very strongly believe in.
Okay.
So I think just going by that, I it was like I never went after grades. So my first learning would be that I never went after grades at IIT or IIM. I
Okay.
just felt that I had to continue learning and like be excellent in whatever I undertook. So
Okay.
it's not just like my time at IIT or IIM, but even any activity which I would do outside of academics or during my childhood, I just had to give my best.
Okay.
So one, I learned that learning never stops. It's just like I think your thirst for learning should never quench, and you should just continue to learn something or the other, or
Right.
something
Right.
or the other,
Absolutely do agree.
right? And the second part would be resilience.
Okay.
Resilience, I think failures, hardships are an inevitable part of life. They have to be there. So, it's like cod liver oil. You know that it's bad, it doesn't taste good, but it's important. It's still a tough pill to swallow. So, yeah, I think I've had my fair share of failures during my life, but I think I learned to, get back onto my feet promptly. Initially, I'm not saying that I was always like this, but of course, I learned with
Okay.
experience or with a lot of instances which I've had.
Okay.
Third, I would say is that it's okay to not be sure of what you want to do. Like I said, I went to IIT,
Yes.
but I just didn't know ki, okay, this is something, this is what I have to do. And I slowly explored over my
Yeah.
time at IIT. Like I just answered in your first question, right? That I took these courses, I took my time to understand, okay, is this something which I like? Yes, no. If not, then what is something, what is an alternative that I could explore? So, but whereas some people, like some of my batchmates, they knew that, this is my dream company and this is where I'm going after IIT. I
Okay.
was not like that. So
Okay.
I think it's okay to not know
Okay.
where you want to go, and it's okay to take your time to explore
Okay.
the journey to eventually, see where you land. Because I just feel that you should not have regrets in life. That,
Uh,
maybe I could have done that, but I didn't. So that what if question, it should never hang around, because it just um, hollows you up from inside. This is
Right,
what.
absolutely. We do agree to that. Like, I think this is more into an acceptance of your learnings and your outcomes, how exactly you're dealing with your life. So,
Mhm.
like, so you have stated three of things that that could be the major. Oh, sorry, four things. So that could be the major
No, and
learnings.
I was just saying that there
Actually,
is.
I was rolled into the resilience part and other parts. So I just crossed into all of those. So never mind. So moving forward, you
I
as
also have, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I
yeah,
also
please.
have another important fourth learning which
Yeah,
I
please,
wanted
please.
to say. That I think I would just suggest everyone, and that is something which I realized within myself also, to not crumble to peer pressure,
Okay.
not have a herd mentality. Okay.
Okay.
Like something which we typically call FOMO. I don't think it's just good to live in FOMO because everyone has their own definition of success.
Okay.
And their people's own definition of success cannot be directly related to their ambition. Like
Absolutely.
someone might have some other priority in life, but you can't call them less ambitious because they chose to prioritize something else over, the other thing. So
Okay.
I just feel that one should be focused on what they want to do
Okay.
and not what, seems like glamorous or glittery or what, some other people are pursuing. I think it's very important to identify what you really want to do because in the long term, that is something which is gonna make things easier for you and sustainable for yourself.
Right. I think, your statement just have, given a rise to my another question to you. So like, as you are aware that this is a time, how like people who gave CAT examination last year and must be enrolling into like different calls from various institutions.
Mm-hmm.
So what could be the possible advice that you want to give to those people like who must not be able to clear, or clear the rounds of an interview and must land up in a good prestigious institution? So do they really need to worry about that they must not be able to land an investment banking line, or is it like they still can have a golden opportunity even if the people are not pursuing an MBA?
No, so I don't think that to all the aspirants out there, firstly, all the best. But I would say that if you're not able to get through, I don't think that's the end of life.
Okay.
I think I know examples who've not probably gone for an MBA, but they're still doing very well in the world of finance. So I don't think you're limited by that. Okay, like I said, that failures are a part of life, and you just need to find a way to overcome that and think of the next step. And I'm not saying that you won't be disappointed. It's very natural. When I faced a failure in life, I was probably, not feeling very pepped up or good for a while. And it's okay. It's okay. You're a human being. It's okay to feel that way. But I think after that phase of life, you need to be resilient and you need to step back up and think, okay, now this is my plan A. It didn't go as per the plan. Life is all about that. If everything just went as per what you planned for yourself, then it's not life, right? So this is plan A. It didn't happen. So now let me just think about a plan B. Or if you already had plan B in place, then well and good.
Absolutely. I think this is $1 million advice given by Miss Aastha Agarwal. So like people do afford, pay a huge hefty amount to like influencers like Sandeep Agarwal and so to hear such of the, insights regarding how exactly do they really encounter to this, like their problems. So I think that could be the best possible advice from your side to the audience. So now like, let's talk about, your IIM Lucknow journey. So like, as we know that like you are having, like experience as like postgraduate teaching assistant at IIM Lucknow. So what is exactly this all about and what could be the possible insights and your experience in this particular thing?
Right. Interesting one. I've not really been asked this before. So I was a teaching assistant at IIT as well. That was undergraduate. And then I got a postgraduate teaching assistantship at IIM. Oh. And I would say that it was a challenging role. Of course, more so at IIM Lucknow because it was post-graduation, right?
Absolutely.
So it's like you have to get people to participate when you're taking a lecture. And you need to balance like an informal versus a formal environment. So what I mean by that is that you need to be taken seriously as a tutor. But at the same time, you don't have to create an atmosphere rigid enough that, people just stay quiet and just listen to you out of fear. Right. People should be able to happily participate, put forth their doubts or, converse basically. It should not be a monologue. So that is there. So sometimes, I would rely on subtle humor to alleviate the awkward silences which were there in a room while, I asked a question and I was waiting for people to reply. Okay. So instances like these. But then I think this whole thing shaped me also as a person because it just taught me to be flexible and how it's like, see, you're a tutor or a teaching assistant. Now you need to do your homework properly because you need to study. So say, for example, there are a few topics that I'm going to cover in this 1.5 hours of lecture. I will prepare myself. See, these are the questions that I'll give them to do, or these are the concepts that I will cover. You have a bar of 1.5 hours and you need to maximize whatever you can, you need to maximize the learning that you're imparting to everyone in that whole time, because time is precious for me as well as for them.
Okay.
But no matter how much you've structured your lecture, how well you've structured your lecture, it will always be affected by the group dynamics, right? And your structure of the lecture might not always fit well with the group that you're tutoring.
Okay.
So, throughout the lecture, you just have to keep improvising. Maybe there's a tough topic and you didn't anticipate so many questions would pour in. People wouldn't understand, or you might also have to repeat the entire topic altogether.
Yeah.
So, things like these, or maybe, people just found that this topic was very easy and they didn't have any question. And I just budgeted a certain amount of time that, this would go under Q&A. So now what do you do? So I think it's just flexibility, how to, improvise on the spot, be flexible according to the audience that you're catering to. I think that's very important. And I think I just, at the end of this whole teaching assistantship stint, I felt very confident about myself. And in the hindsight, I think I just feel very good from inside about this entire process. It was good. It was very different. Sometimes also there are challenges the professor doesn't want you to spoon feed the students, but then they would be actively looking for answers because it's just exams mein aayega, let's just get done with this. So how do you balance the expectations of the professor and the students?
Right. Great challenge. Right.
Yeah, exactly. But I think all of it went very well. I think I was able to do it well. I hope my juniors, if anyone.
Absolutely. That's why, Right. That's totally agree. So the thing is, I am sure that, whatever learnings you must have availed from having your experience in such a, something that one in, million kind of an opportunity must be very, very fruitful to you in building your personality that we are looking to.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I would say that, teaching us, just one point that, yes, I mean, to be your teaching assistant, you of course need to have a very high grade or the topmost grade in that course.
Right.
But I think what follows after that, after you become the teaching assistant, is I think a lot about developing your soft skills also. Of course, it's the hard skills, the technical skills of the subject that you're teaching, but I think it's also about developing your soft skills. And I think it was a very good experience. Thank you for asking me that question.
Well, my pleasure. So moving forward and, restricting to the fact that what could be the agenda of this particular podcast. So now let's talk about investment banking line as in whole. So what could be, your roles and responsibilities of being an investment banking analyst at a company like Goldman Sachs?
Okay. Right. So, for those who don't know what investment banking is, I could just briefly, tell that investment bankers are basically financial advisors, and they advise clients, basically corporations or institutions, in two ways broadly. One is mergers and acquisitions, and second is through capital markets. Mergers and acquisitions would be sell side or a buy side transaction broadly, wherein you might want to sell a part of your company or your company to someone, and buy side would be where you'll be advising a client to buy a company or acquire a company. And in the capital market side, you broadly have equity capital markets and debt capital markets. And in equity capital markets, it's you're helping a company raise money in the form of equity, for example, through IPOs or through ABOs, if it's a listed company. And in debt capital markets, you're helping the client to structure sophisticated debt products, for example, some particular kinds of bonds with some features, etc. So this is broadly what an investment banker does. Roles and responsibilities, I just think that, and this is not particular to GS, this is something I'm answering in general, that it's basically that this role is so dynamic. The breadth of services that you offer to clients is so vast, and every request or every transaction is very unique in its own. So there is no particular well-defined list of day-to-day roles or responsibilities that you can follow. But I could tell you that, of course, say for example, it's an IPO. If you're working on an IPO, there is that how an IPO would broadly, what are the stages of an IPO? But I think your day-to-day work is much more granular. So I
Right.
think that would differ with every process.
Okay.
But I think to undertake these transactions and to work as a team in these transactions is very important. And the skills that would help one to, go through such a role will be one, I think, hard skills in the form of financial adroitness, which would have industry knowledge. So, for example, M&A, like I told you, the first bucket of investment banking, right? You had M&A and you had capital markets. So, with M&A is mostly industry specific. So, you have various industries and you
Absolutely.
cater
Right.
to clients under those particular industries.
Yes.
So, hard skills in the form of financial adroitness
Okay.
that would entail having industry knowledge, and of course that grows organically as you spend more time in that industry, right? You
Okay.
might even specialize in a subsector
Okay.
of that particular industry.
Okay.
And I think financial modeling, at
Okay.
some point it becomes important because I just feel that financial models are like the bread and butter of investment banking.
Okay.
And
Absolutely.
second would be soft skills are important. You need to have attention to detail and you need to be extremely focused, sharp, and on toes because you have many projects running in parallel. You're not just working on one project. So I think you need to manage processes well. You need to be able to take directions from
Right.
your seniors well about, and ask the right questions if you're not able to understand something. So I think all of this is very important, and this will help you, transition through your role as an investment banker, whatever responsibilities you have as a
Okay.
part of the day-to-day job.
I understand that. So there could not be, better explanation to just a simple question that what could be your roles and responsibilities of being an investment banker. So I think you have, nourished and, briefly, not briefly, just, explained it in such a detailed manner. I think, people who must be a fresher and must not be having a detailed knowledge or must not be having a brief knowledge regarding the finance and how exactly an investment banker and, capital markets, IPO. So I think you have given a great exposure to the line, to your industry, to the audience. So I meantime, take breaks to appreciate the other person.
Thank you so much. Like,
Right. So as we know, so I just want to, audience, I just want to let the audience know that Miss Asta have also, worked as an equity analyst before, like prior joining this investment banking line. So my another question will relate to this, like investment banking versus equity analyst. So what could be the, two different roles with the, two basic similarities among these two roles and two basic differences as per you?
okay. So similarities, of course. I think financial modeling is important in both the roles. That will be one similarity. Second, I think it's important to know that industry that you're a part of. I think it will help you either way. Differences, there would be probably more than two. So one, equity research, investment banking. Equity research is like a sell side role, public, right? And so basically, there is a set universe of companies that you cover. So, for example, there's a particular sector that you're covering and particular geography that you're covering, and you have some companies which fit in those criteria, and you cover them. So
Okay.
you cover them as in basically you write reports on them
Okay.
and you rate their stock because it's a public company, right? So you give ratings, like absolute ratings in the form of buy, hold, sell, and relative ratings in the form of overweight, neutral, or underweight.
Okay.
So basically, you'll study their company, you'll study the stock, you will track their any events that are happening at the company, for example, any M&A, etc. Or you would, track their earnings calls, etc. Anything which is happening in the company and which you feel affects your view on the stock,
Okay.
right? You would bring it out in the form of an equity research report
Okay.
and give your stock recommendation to the investors.
Okay.
And these reports basically they are used by buy side analysts, by investment bankers, etc.
Okay.
So in equity research, I think the companies that you're covering, you're the master of those companies. No one knows that space and those companies as closely and as well as you do because you track them day in and day out,
Okay.
right? Now if I compare this with investment banking,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, maybe you're covering a specific geography or you're covering a specific industry, but your client base or something which you cover is not really fixed. you would continuously be wanting to, say, onboard more clients
Okay.
and get more mandates to help a client on a particular transaction. And it's nothing is fixed.
Okay.
So basically in equity research, for example, when you're covering those particular set of companies, you are building and maintaining financial models of those companies and continuously updating your forecast and
Okay.
hence your stock recommendation.
Right.
Here in investment banking, it won't be just modeling, but I think it's more than modeling. I would say that it's managing an entire process. Like you're making an entire deal worth millions and billions of dollars happening. And I think that entire process is very, very, very grueling. Such high pace, so grueling, such a high pace, very dynamic process. Um, Emails churning in and out every second. I think there is a lot to take care of. You are interacting with so many people. There are so many parties involved. So I think managing process there becomes a very important part. So I think anything under the sky,
Okay.
in a particular process, there is nothing one specific thing that you'll have to do. If a client requests something, you just have to do it.
Okay.
You might have to conduct some research, you might have to do some data analysis or any like a financial analysis, anything. So nothing is defined, because a process, like I told you in the beginning, that a process, every process is unique.
Okay.
And the requirement is different. So that's how they differ.
I think that is huge. So managing wealth is something that basically interests me too. So, but so do you want to, give some advice, like people who, interested in another domains, like me myself are interested in marketing line, and also interested in managing, the options, and, dealing with Nifty and Nifty bank. So what could be the possible career options, like people having with other, interest in another domains and having some hold of interest in lines of managing equity or managing wealth? So what could be the possible, like, is it something that a part-time trader that one can be only, or is it like something else also?
No, so like you mentioned that you're interested in marketing as a profession, but trading in stocks, etc., or investing is a part-time hobby for you.
Hobby, right?
And I think it's completely fine, because I just feel that this is not just for people who are pursuing finance as career. I think investing and growing wealth is something which comes under the domain of personal finance as well.
Right.
And each and every individual needs to be aware of this. It's not just people who are, pursuing finance as a career. So yes, I mean, if you like love marketing, of course you should, pursue marketing as your profession in a marketing company or an FMCG company, or whatsoever it is. And on the personal side, you want to grow your wealth, but that is not something which you want to do 24/7. So of course, I mean, you can look up a few companies and see which ones are doing well. Or I think investing is a very vast subject. It's not just that you pick up a few stocks and just invest. There is something known as an investment policy statement for every investor, because that encompasses of the kind of returns that you're expecting from your portfolio, the kind of risk that you can take, that is your ability and your willingness to take risk.
Right.
Because of course, investing money is risky as well.
Yeah.
No risk, no return. So I think it's just very vast. So I think it's a very personal choice in what kind of instruments does a person want to invest, and how do they want to take it going forward. So yeah, I mean, of course, like I think it's a part of personal finance, and everyone should do it irrespective of the career that they're pursuing.
Thanks for clearing my doubt on this this aspect. So moving forward, considering the time constraint that we both have, and definitely not me but Miss Aastha, so like moving forward now, keeping this last but not the least question, definitely, so how should one channelize their roadmap in order to get themselves selected as an investment banker or an equity analyst at big corporations?
Okay, so see, I think again, like this is something which I've learned over the years through my journey at IIT and IIM. Sometimes you don't know what you have to do, right? And sometimes you do, because maybe your parents have that particular background, or so you are exposed to that field very early on as compared to others. A lot of factors. But I would say that once you're in college, I think you should definitely also say you identify your domain. Now you don't know how this domain looks like. I would
Right.
just say that whenever you get your holidays or your break or like or anything, I think you should just look for internships, live projects in a particular domain, so that that gives you a first-hand experience of working in that particular domain. And so at the end of your live project or your internship, you can say that, okay, yes, this is something which definitely like built my interest further, or no, this is something which I can't do, it's not for me.
Okay.
So basically, you're identifying your goal or your interest either by, pursuing that thing further. Yes, 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 yes. Or you're just crossing out that this is something which I don't want to do. You try the next thing. It
Okay.
doesn't interest you, cross that out. There are some domains which you figure out that these are the things which I don't want to do, and I'll figure out what to do with the rest. Or
Right.
like you do something and you build interest in that further, and then you keep pursuing that. So I think having a first-hand like real experience, not just through books or subjects, but I think having a professional experience, a professional working experience in that particular field will be very helpful for you to identify whether you really want to, start your career or, have a long time career in that field.
Understood.
This will be like my foremost advice.
Okay.
And the second part I would say would be that if you don't have um, if you don't have exposure to if you've not had exposure to a particular field at all, and you like just don't know what this field is about, I think books are your best friends.
Okay.
A lot of people tell that you don't have to be bookish, it's not all about theory, you need to have practical experience as well. Yes, very true, it's absolutely true. But at the same time, you can't ignore the knowledge or the learning that books provide, because they give you a starting base where to start from. If you don't know, you can just read books and learn more about that field, and once you feel comfortable enough, once you have gathered some knowledge from the books, then you can probably go out and have a practical experience, like I mentioned just before this.
Right. Right.
So I think it's a combination of both.
Okay.
Now I'm sorry, like I know there's a time constraint, but let me just
Absolutely. Take your time. Take your time. Yeah.
that say I've interviewed some candidates, and sometimes they tell that yeah, they're interested in finance, but if you ask them questions in finance, they wouldn't know. So the thing is that say if you're telling someone that you're interested in finance, maybe you have to put in an effort to show someone, like if you're giving an interview, the recruiter should be able to identify that, yes, okay, it's okay that maybe you don't have exposure to finance yet, but are you putting in an effort, are you doing something to learn about that field?
Okay. Okay.
Right. So maybe you pursue an online course, or you read books, or
Right.
you get in touch with someone who's in finance and just ask them, hey, I'm just totally new to this field,
Right.
but I think I want to explore this field, can you guide me on where to start from?
Okay. Okay. Right. I think that is something that could be, so before I jump into any other, further observation, so just need to remind the audience that audience must be seeing, must be assuming that an academic scholar is asking them, to pursue or, to learn from books. So this is not the way it seems to be. So she is just not, an academic scholar, but also an, enthusiast or a working professional. So I think an advice from such a personality who's an academic scholar as well as the working professional at such big corporation, at a big, roles, like big particular domain. So I think that could be the possible best advice that any other, your colleague, your friend can give. So I think let's conclude it today. And, thank you so much, Aastha, for getting on board with all of us. And I'm sure this podcast is not, just a random podcast, and will definitely make the people learn about whatever insights that they must have obtained from you.
Very again, like very humbled to be here. Thank you so much for having me, and I hope that people who are listening to this podcast, I think even if you like gain a little bit, or if I was able to help you in any way, I think the purpose is fulfilled. So
absolutely. So just a piece of advice to the audiences: don't like look the name of Miss Aastha Agarwal to LinkedIn and ask her, like keep irritating her for regarding the investment advice. So just don't do that. Make the courtesy of GrowJunction as a whole brand. So let's end it today.
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much. All
Thank
the
you.
best, everyone. Bye.